Eve. I was snowed in the office for most of the day yesterday. That was fun. Mike, Kevin, Monica, Matthew. It is Nicsmas Eve. Let me know that you can hear me, and we'll get rolling. I know there's a weird schedule. I think some people are still off between Christmas and New Year. Some people are probably back at work. My schedule is basically the same. I just do whatever I want every day, and that just means pretty much go to the office and tinker with stuff, take naps, that kind of stuff. All right. Nicsmas 2021. It is Nicsmas Eve. This is directions for acting like an adult or don't act like an a-hole. I got conflicting messages. I got no sound, just in case you think there is, and I also got I can hear you loud and clear. So if somebody can hear me, I'm going to assume everybody can hear me. Directions for acting like an adult, don't act like an a-hole. Kind of fire hose to the face the last 10 days. That's by design. It's by design. I figured wasn't going to do Nicsmas, and I said if I'm going to do it, I am just going to do it all in. I'm going to do it my style. And we'll see if there is any benefit to everybody else. So hopefully it's been beneficial. Okay? Nicsmas Eve. Here's what tends to happen. This has just been my observation. Is people go, wow, I've been an a-hole. I know, I've been there. I have experienced this. I experience this daily. Wow, I was really an a-hole in this situation. And it gives you pause, right? I got to start thinking about what I say. I got to think deeply about what I do. I hope, anyway, that's the takeaway, is that I really got to start thinking about the depth of my questions and my answers and my beliefs. And the risk then is that we get paralyzed. The risk is that we get paralyzed, and we have to avoid that, and I will explain why. Because being paralyzed is different than, like, actively taking naps, which I like to do. That can be an action. Our society and the world, maybe your parents and your peers, will tell you that taking a nap is not an action. They don't understand how things work. They rather work themselves into oblivion and miss all of the potential. However, being paralyzed, staring at the wall for hours, refreshing Facebook, stressing about not knowing what to do next is a very different thing. And so sometimes there's and this conversation's come up, we talked about the conversation with death, sometimes there's a revisiting of significance and purpose, like what am I doing here? Now that I realize I've been such an a-hole, what the hell am I supposed to do? So we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay. 6-word updates. Of course, let's hit your 6-word updates. Hard to see some coming in. That's phenomenal. Goes through some tweets. I like to scroll through tweets and just stream of consciousness. I don't like slides. Never been a fan of slides. How to win, right? Engineering luck. How to get what you want out of life. Increase the probability that you get the things that actually matter to you. Not win by somebody else's rules and definitions. If you've read Finite and Infinite Games, which I suggested, then hopefully you're starting to understand a little bit about what I'm talking about. How do you win? You rig the game so that you have time on your side, so that you have randomness on your side, and you don't blow yourself up. That's it. Another way to say it, mitigate risk, increase optionality. Mitigate risk, increase optionality, repeat, 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 and remain curious and receptive to the things that reveal themselves. If that's not aligned with your beliefs, then I'm not really sure why you're on day 11 of Nicsmas, but that's okay. This is where my beliefs lie. So you got to rig the game. So I'll give you a quick example. I'll give you a really quick example. Conversation happened in the VIP session yesterday is an example of rigging the game in business. And we use in the CCA, we teach all these frameworks and walk people through them and case studies and all that stuff. But in business, okay, here's how you can rig the game. You can rig the game like this. You list out all the opportunities you have, all the options you have, and this is Dan's 4-lens framework, okay? So there's a 4-lens framework. Okay, there's 2 qualitative and there's 2 quantitative. I'll show you why. This is just an example, but if you have a business, you might want to write this down. Is it a cost savings? Is it a time savings? Is it a forcing function? Is it a revenue generator? Okay? Now, what most people do is they go, I think this will make money. And then they try. And guess what? Most of the things we do fail. What did we say at the very beginning of Nicsmas? The more things that have to go right in order for a very specific outcome, the less you have time and randomness on your side. Okay? The more arbitrary the goal, the more arbitrary the timeline, the more specific you are about exactly how it has to happen, you are decreasing optionality. Go back to Evelyn Adams and the lottery and probability, right? So if you haven't seen those, then, just someday maybe there'll be replays available. Right now I'm only going to make them available to CCA, people in CCA. So here's what we do now. Well, most people go, I think this will generate money, and they put a ton of time and effort and resources, and this is a countdown to doomsday. This is a countdown to doomsday, because if your launch does not achieve everything you wanted to achieve, you just hemorrhaged time, resources, and energy. Okay? You needed it to go exactly the way you planned in order for it to be worth the time, effort, and energy. However, if we line out all of the possible things we can do within reason, and it checks off 3 of these 4 boxes, we have rigged the game, put time and randomness on our side. Let me explain really quick, okay? And again, this is just a specific business example. And I put it in a box because it's easier to type in a box. If, let's say, I have all these options, and one of them is teach a master class on retention, referrals, raving fans. This is actually what I did for Nicsmas 2019. I wasn't going to do Nicsmas 2019. It's the first time I did it. I actually ran it through the 4 lens framework, and I said, I need to teach this to my staff anyway, right? I've been thinking about teaching this to my staff for a while. I think it'll be really valuable. I'm not really sure if I want to do it, and I pulled up the 4 lens framework. So we say, is it a forcing function? Maybe. Is it a time savings? Yes, because I have to teach it to every one of my individual clients and all of my employees, and I'm tired of doing it. If I can teach it right, if I can sit down and teach it really, really well, I will save myself so much time in the future. It's ridiculous. Is there a cost savings? Yes. Same reasons as time savings in this case. Sometimes they go hand in hand in business, okay? Now, is it a revenue generator? I think so. I think people will buy it. And is it a forcing function? It could be. Okay? So what I did was I said, I'm going to do Nicsmas 2019. If you guys are interested, you could upgrade to VIP, yada, yada, yada. It's going to start on December 16th. And people paid for VIP. That made it the revenue generator. And because people paid and I didn't want to refund them, it was then a forcing function. Okay? So I sat down and I did Nicsmas 2019. I really cannot lose because even if it doesn't generate any more revenue, it still forced me to sit down and do a thing that I needed to do anyway. It saved me hundreds of hours over time, and it saved me the cost. And in this case, cost and time happened to be the same. So we can line things out and we can say, look, what most people are doing is say, I got to find a way to save myself some time. And they plan and they plan and they plan and they try a new thing and they hope to God it saves them time, because if it doesn't, they just wasted a bunch of resources. But if we run it through the 4 lenses, can we get it to check off 3 of these boxes? If yes, you cannot lose. Even if it doesn't generate revenue, it was a forcing function, it's a time savings, a cost savings, that's a win. Even if it doesn't save you cost, but it saves you time, it forces you to sit down and do something you do anyway, and it generates revenue, it's a win. Right? So this is one of the examples, just real quick, when I'm like, I need this thing to happen and all these things need to go right. Like, sit down, run all your options through 4 lenses, and find something that you can check off 3 boxes. If you can't check off 3 boxes, find something you check off 2. Right? If you can't check off 2, then you have a bunch of really bad options. You are not being perceptive to the most efficient path forward. You're missing something hidden in plain sight. So it's just an example. You don't always go, hey, we need some revenue. Let's do the thing that's has the highest likelihood of generating the most revenue, because it may not be any of these other things, which means it's fragile. I will always do the thing where I cannot lose. I did define Laurel says this is one of my favorite exercises. I did define forcing function when I explained it. It was it's in the context. A forcing function is something that forces you to do something that you need to do anyway. So for example, I need to build this training and I have been avoiding it. Okay? By launching it as a live masterclass and collecting money and saying I'm going to start on January 3rd or whatever, right? I now have a forcing function. I now have to show up on January 3rd because I made the promise and I collected money. So it is qualitative, and it's just an action that forces me to take the action that I need to take anyway. Okay. Laurel says she's had the 4 lenses written on her blackboard for over a year now. It's because we're going to go, oh, what's the thing that's going to save us the most time? Because we're super focused on time. And if it doesn't check off 2 more of these boxes, it's fragile. You are not rigging the game in your favor. You are doing the exact thing we started Nicsmas with, saying you shouldn't do, which is identify the thing, like, oh, this is the thing I need, and these are all the things that have to go right. What we want to do is check off 3 of these boxes. So even if somehow it doesn't save you time, or it doesn't save you as much time as you thought, it still forced you to sit down and do something you needed to do. It still generated revenue, and it still saved you some cost. Right? So this is how you rig the game. You stop. This is another example of going for upside. Well, I think I can make more money if I do this, but it's not a forcing function. There's no time savings. There's no cost savings. This is chasing more. This is not rigging the game. This is not putting time or randomness in your favor. This is doing the exact opposite. This is saying, it's not putting time in your favor by any means, right? And it's saying, it's not putting randomness in your favor. It's saying, I need this to go exactly as I plan, otherwise I've wasted my time. Or we could check off 3 of these boxes unequivocally, and we can't lose. Guess what happens when you play a game over time? Every other player in the space is not rigging the game. It's only a matter of time before they blow up. What happens when you let time pass and you've rigged the game so you can't lose? Right? That's how you put time and randomness on your side. Then the other one is don't blow yourself up. You got time on your side, you got randomness on your side. Now the trick is to just stay in the game long enough to let it all compound into an empire. That's it. So you can create your own 4 lenses. This is specific to business because it's revenue focused, right? And I know that most people are chasing revenue. The 4 lens framework, again, introduced to me by Dan Nicholson, and we go through it really in depth in the CCA, which is why I'm just giving it as an example today. So hopefully that makes sense. You can just engineer the game. Nothing goes. When people go, what do you expect? People, you can ask any of my business partners. You can ask when I did my Customers for Life class, master class, I had 11 people sign up for, I don't know, it was just barely enough to even matter. I told my private client group, I said, yeah, I got 11 people to sign up, like $1,000, you know? And they said, you taught it for 6 weeks? Was it, does that 11 people at $1,000, does that even move the needle? Yes, because I saved myself tens of thousands of dollars in support people. I saved myself hundreds of hours, and it forced me to sit down and build the thing that I've been kicking down the road. It's been causing a lot of cognitive strain. So yeah, the rest of the world's mostly focused on their biggest pain, which is either revenue or time. And they completely miss the opportunity to just rig the game over and over and over and over and over and over and get themselves in a better and better and better and better position. We talked about measuring ratios, right? 4 lenses, you can go, oh, but you'd make more revenue if you did this, but I'll have a better revenue to time to profit ratio if I check off 3 of these boxes. And because I think a little bit deeper about what really matters to me in closing the gap, I don't operate with singular numbers. I have ratios. I need to improve the ratio of the things that matter to me, right? If I need more time with my family, then I might make a little bit less revenue doing it this way, but I get more time with my family. So it's actually the way that I'm doing it that gets me closer to the things that I actually want, right? So you can always rig the game. If you think in ratios, you can build your lens framework using ratios and then check off 3 or 4 of the boxes. This is the one I would recommend for business. This is time tested. It comes from one of the brightest minds I know. And it's the one that I use and a lot of our clients use. Okay. So that's how you can rig the game in your favor. Stop chasing a singular number, the upside on a singular number. It's silly. It's fragile. Don't Look Up. If you enjoy a good satire, please watch that movie. After Nicsmas, like teaching Nicsmas and watching Don't Look Up, I got a kick out of it last night. It was a lot of fun. That's what we're going to talk about today. Frequency, intensity, and purpose. Okay, it's Randy Massengill. It's a solution to what we're going to talk about today on Nicsmas. Okay, frequency, intensity, purpose. You can write that down. I'm going to zoom over it today. Cool. Hopefully 4 lenses make sense. It's a very, very powerful framework. It's very hard to do because you're going to go, oh, but I can make more money maybe if I do this. And it doesn't check off any of the other boxes. You are in a very, very fragile position. You're kind of being an a-hole if you know the 4 lenses exists and you don't use it or create your own version to hedge the downside and rig the game so you can't lose. I cannot lose when I move forward. You can say, oh, but you didn't make that much revenue, but I got my time back and I built a thing that I've been kicking down the road and I saved a bunch of cost. And actually cost savings typically moves the needle more than more revenue. Bottom line improvement generally gets you closer to what you want faster than top line improvement does. So I can't lose. Quote of the day: if it can be destroyed by the truth, it deserves to be destroyed by the truth. That is what I think a lot of people are struggling with in Nicsmas, is a lot of the beliefs. A lot of people are going to try to hang on to their beliefs, and you're going to catch yourself wanting to hold on to your beliefs. But if revealing something to be true shatters your narrative, then that narrative deserves to be shattered. You should want it to be shattered. Really. We find a lot of comfort in our narratives, and I understand that. And if the goal is to be comfortable, meaning if our goal is to choose the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty, then by all means, hold on to your narrative. But if you refuse to accept, if you refuse to choose the certainty of misery, which is what most people being comfortable is, you need that certainty of your narrative, that's okay. However, if you actually want to get closer to the things that you say matter to you and you want to align your behaviors with your beliefs, you have to be open. You have to be open to some of the statements of facts and some of the narratives. You have to be open to inverting this and letting the fundamentals and technicals shatter your narrative. You have to let the body of evidence shatter the things that you consider to be a fact. You have to at least try. Now, if a body of evidence cannot destroy a statement of fact, if the body of evidence, the fundamentals and technicals cannot destroy a narrative, great. That is a very robust, powerful, probably effective narrative. Okay. If it can be destroyed by the truth, it deserves to be destroyed by the truth. And we make our world significant by the courage of our questions and the depth of our answers. Both are Carl Sagan. I hope, if nothing else, Nicsmas has at least made you consider asking questions that maybe you were afraid of asking before. Facing things that maybe you have been avoiding facing, and really appreciating and learning to think about depths of your responses, your thoughts, and your answers. That's not length. Some of the 6-word updates that I've seen out of people that I know have more depth than some of the paragraphs, multiple paragraphs they've written me on Facebook. So hopefully, as we talk about purpose and significance, you continue to challenge yourself, and I continue to challenge myself. We continue to challenge ourselves with asking better questions that maybe we think sound stupid. Maybe we don't know how to ask them. Maybe We don't want to know the answer. We don't want to ask this question because the answer might shatter the narrative that we hold so dear. And I strive, often come up short, but I strive to have depth to my answers, as complete as possible. And sometimes the most complete answer is it depends. It's more complete than a made-up answer that sounds good, in my opinion. Okay, so we make our world significant by the courage of our questions, depth of our answers. And, God, I got a lot of quotes from Carl Sagan today. You can tell what I was reading. The cure for a fallacious argument is a better argument, not the suppression of ideas. Okay? Let's go back to Thought Stoppers, which was Garrett Hardin, I believe, introduced Thought Stoppers in like 1985. Thought Stoppers. So somebody says something you don't agree with. Be very, very careful that we're not throwing a thought stopper. That can't be true. You know what I mean. That's just impossible. There's infinite explanations other than that. Those are all thought stoppers. You are trying to suppress ideas because you don't have a better argument. And you're kind of being an a-hole if you are so sure about something you cannot make a better argument for. You're being an even bigger a-hole. You want to be sure about something, that's fine. Telling other people, suppressing other people's ideas when you do not have a better argument, you do not have a better explanation. You cannot come from a place of fundamentals to technicals to a better argument, and you cannot show a body of evidence, which is fundamentals and technicals, and create a better statement of fact. All right, so it's very, very important. We catch ourselves. We can catch others, but we don't have to call them out. We just have to be aware that, wait a minute, you're saying this goes back to the decision-making quadrant. This all ties together. You're going to see how this all ties together. You go back to the decision-making quadrant when somebody goes, oh, you might have made a good decision and had a poor outcome. Okay? And somebody else goes, yeah, because that belief system, that decision was stupid. Don't do that again. And you might look at the outcome. You have self-doubt, and now you believe this person that says you're stupid. They better, in order for you to believe them, they better have a better argument. They better understand how you made the decision, the logic, the evidence, the reasoning, and be able to give you a better set of logic, reasoning, and evidence. And if they cannot, that person has no credibility, not as a human, but this statement right here. That's just a suppression of an idea. And what they're doing is they're piggybacking off an outcome, which we know an outcome does not necessarily determine the quality of the decision. So they're piggybacking off an outcome, and they're poking holes at your decision, and they're using a thought stopper. If you have an argument, it better be a good one. And if somebody has a counter argument, it better be a better one. Thought stoppers and pointing at outcomes, combining the two, it's not how we become effective humans, in my opinion. Okay? This is how we get this a-hole loop. We just get people that want to hold on to their beliefs. Okay? They will not let it be destroyed by the truth. They will ignore the truth. They do not have the courage to ask better questions or the thoughtfulness or awareness to give in-depth answers. So we suppress ideas. Some of the people that think they're the most open-minded and willing and whatever kind of people are the worst because they're completely unaware they're suppressing ideas. You have like this range, in my opinion, you have a range of a-holeness. If you are suppressing someone's ideas on purpose, you are an a-hole for sure. If you are suppressing other people's ideas and you are completely unaware of it, you are a bigger a-hole because you're not in control. You have no control over the damage you are doing, and you're delusional and you have a broken feedback loop. You're going out probably thinking you're helping people and you're hurting them. Something to think about. Players that we always point fingers at the malicious people, and we should, because malicious people suck. And then we try to forgive the people that don't even realize they're playing the game, but we have to recognize, sure, we can forgive them, but we can't excuse it because they're more dangerous. Power and control, power and influence and control, that's one thing. Power and influence out of control is far more dangerous. So we have to be aware of this, but more importantly, in my opinion, before we start looking at other people, we got to look in the mirror and make sure we're not unknowingly playing a game, because we probably are. And that makes us very, very dangerous. That makes us bigger a-holes. Being completely unaware that you're an a-hole is a way bigger a-hole move, because that means you have no idea how or when to stop. My opinion, of course. Okay. So you believe you're right. You believe your ideas are better. Whatever. Do the work. Do the work and craft a better narrative, but do it this way, right? Get the directionality right. So now I got a new toolbox, right? Last 10, 11 days. Getting rid of some old tools, hopefully developing some new ones. And a lot of it goes back to really just the ability. Somebody said today, it was a good question, but they read something and said, oh, this is like diffusion of innovation for the human mind. That's taking a narrative, a brand new one that I introduced yesterday, and within 24 hours trying to draw an arrow from diffusion of innovation to some other fundamental work. Very, very dangerous. Leave open loops. Just let it be open for a while. Don't try not to draw lines where they aren't there. And if you're going to try to draw lines, here's how I know this didn't happen. This is my opinion, but I'm pretty sure of it. I know this didn't happen because it's been less than 24 hours. So if we use our new toolbox, that means we didn't go from narrative to technical to fundamental. We didn't go, ooh, here's an idea, kind of like another idea. It must be the same or similar. I'm pretty sure what did not happen is they didn't look at the fundamentals and the body of evidence behind the second thing, the thing they're trying to connect to diffusion of innovations. Deep dive on the technicals and see if they could draw a line from this new work to diffusion of innovations. How? Because that would take months. That would take months. And it's been 24 hours. You can always tell, or I believe that I can always tell, when somebody is trying to come to a conclusion or make a connection way too quickly, because it happens too quickly. The barbell that I shared the other day, where MED, MRV, upside, reliability, explore, exploit, that is... MED, MRV was the first one I was introduced to. That's 11 years. 11 years to make those connections. So you can see, hopefully, and I hope that makes sense. I'm not judging. I'm sharing my perspective. And I talked about developing a BS meter and calling BS. And this is how I call BS. I don't call BS on the person. I call BS on the statement and or the process. And we typically don't want to call BS on a statement. We want to call BS on a process. So if I talk diffusion of innovations and you see a brand new book or you hear a podcast, you go, oh, this is just like diffusion of innovations. Probably not. Of course, some things are. There's a lot of fundamentals. All you need to do is go to the fundamentals of what you just heard. Really, really understand the fundamentals. I'll tell you what I do if it's helpful for you guys. I'll read diffusion of innovations for the first time. I will read it all the way through. Open loops all around. I just sleep on stuff. Took me a couple days to read diffusion of innovations. Very, very thick. Took me maybe a week and a half. I don't know. I just read it all the way through. All open loops. I'm not trying to say this is just like this is just like that. Why do I need to make sense of things that quickly? Then I will read it again and I will highlight the things that I feel like have the most practical application, the things that are most relevant to the things that could inform my behavior. If it doesn't inform my behavior, I don't need to know it. I'm not trying to sound smart. I'm not trying to quote books. I just want to inform my own behavior. Then, so we're already about a month in here, then I will go back and I will rewrite all the highlighted sections in all the areas of my life that are important. So they could be introduced, a concept like thinking about relative change instead of absolute numbers. Okay, what does that mean in fitness? What does that mean in my business? What are some examples? What does that mean for my clients? And I write it all in my own words, and then I rewrite it in pictures. I draw it out, and I try to connect it to other things that are relevant to me. So you can see maybe why when somebody makes a connection and thinks they get it in 12 hours, to me, I'm calling BS on the process. That's not to say they're wrong. The statement might be correct. I'm saying the process in which they got there is probably faulty. Hopefully that makes sense. So then we find patterns, but it's years and years and years and years of processing things. That's what I mean. Hopefully it makes sense. That's what I mean when I say open loops. You can look all around my office. I got open loops everywhere. I draw them out. So it's not, don't draw lines quickly. Don't make connections quickly. Don't go, this makes sense quickly. We talked about this. That is where we start to become an a-hole. We go, that makes sense. We craft a story. We take sides. We prophesize the future because now we get it and we're confused. But deep down, we know you didn't become a master of a thing in 10 hours. So just keep working on. If you go, this is probably like diffusive innovation. Go, okay, kill that narrative. Kill the narrative. You have that thought. Kill the narrative. Technicals, fundamentals. Now, the fundamentals of diffusive innovation, you can actually go to Wikipedia, and it has sections. Those are basically the fundamentals of diffusive innovation. And then can we draw a line all the way back to this new thing that we found? Or can we do this new thing we found, and can we draw a line all the way back to diffusion innovation? It's possible that you could stretch, right? But you also have to be aware when you're stretching. You're trying to fit a narrative. You may as well be doing it the opposite direction. Like, this is all self-awareness stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. When it's a good example of just leaving loops open. Leave loops. It's okay. I'll give you this too. This was not planned, but it's okay to observe a thing. When I act this way, this happens. Observation. When we get in trouble and where we start being a-holes is when we say because, and we try to make sense of it. Oh, well, when I eat multiple times a day, I actually lose weight. That could be a good observation. Because more frequent meals increases your metabolism is actually a false statement. That is not true. But it's very popular because somebody became an a-hole and needs to try to close this gap. It's okay to just observe a thing. This happened and then this happened. That's an observation. You can just sit with that for years and you can observe it over and over and over. And over time, maybe there's an explanation, maybe there's not. There's nothing wrong with the anecdotal as long as we know that it's anecdotal. When we go because, we start developing a narrative that does not hold up to technicals or fundamentals. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. Make sure I'm not losing anybody here because I'm just rambling. This is very, very strange. If you're an expert in something, if you've been doing something for 10, 20, 30 years, don't you get really irritated when people try to explain things they don't understand? And yet, I promise you do it all the time. Stop. Stop trying to close. Just, what goes up comes back down. Interesting. Oh, that went up and that came down too. You can just make a series of observations. And then, this is what science is, you can test them. So you got a new toolbox. A lot of that toolbox is stop being an a-hole. Directions for acting like an adult. Don't act like an asshole. New toolbox. The trick here is that we do not get paralyzed. We don't get paralyzed. And so Dr. Jeff Spencer always says, action organizes. Action organizes. So where does purpose come from? We're sitting here going, okay, I want to be here, and I'm here, and how do I close the gap? And now I'm very confused. A lot of people are confused about who I am, what I want, yada, yada, yada. Remember, clarity, certainty, collapsing time. These are all phases, and these are all actions. There are actions within these actions. Anybody that tries to convince you clarity is not an action doesn't understand, right? It's okay. You don't need to know. Figuring out is an action. I spend most of my time in the clarity phase. That's not typical. Typical is a better word than normal, I think. It's not typical, and that might not be everybody. I have an insane amount of comfortability sitting in the clarity phase. What I don't do is stare at the wall and do nothing, paralyzed. I'll explain that in a minute. Certainty. Those are the actions you know that you need to do in order to maintain course. They may be mundane, they may be boring, some can be delegated, some cannot, but certainty, these are the actions that you need to do in order to maintain the course. Right? And collapsing time are the behaviors that make things happen faster or increase the probability that things happen faster. A lot of time, collapsing time is less activity. It's super counterintuitive to people. But in the market, if you're in crypto, best way to collapse time, get what you want faster, is to stop trading shit. Just buy good shit and hold it. You will get there faster. People that are day trading, like Bitcoin for the last 10 years, are further away than the people that bought Bitcoin 10 years ago and just held it and did nothing. So it's very counterintuitive for a lot of people that are action-oriented or have a bias towards positive action to understand that sometimes collapsing time is doing less. It is your frequent behavior that is slowing you down. Okay, so we have to understand this, in my opinion, of course. So we should understand this, in my opinion. And it's okay to sit in either of these. This is a very powerful place to be. Everybody wants to, because there's arrows here and because it's a sequence, everybody wants to finish. Everybody wants to hurry up and get to collapsing time. And Dr. Jeff Spencer also said to me once, I'm not in a hurry to finish in second place. Not in a hurry to finish in second place. So action organizes, but I'm over-explaining this because I don't want anybody to think that that means movement or erratic behavior. Getting clarity can be an action. You can take actions in here to get clarity. So how does one figure out purpose? How does one, this is from Randy Massengale. Okay. And you see it right here. This is the process. I would write this down because you can be in this zone in all of these phases. Most people think purpose is a thing that you sit around and you come up with and then you act. Well, action organizes, including your thoughts. Purpose does not come out of nowhere. This is where a lot of people develop these false identities. The whole thing we've been talking about Nicsmas, people sit around and go, what do I think of myself as? And then they go, I could probably do this. And then they just start acting. And it's 5, 10, 20 years later before they realize that has nothing to do with their unique disposition or their personality or what they want. It's just something they thought of because they thought they were supposed to have a purpose. What Randy proposes that I agree with and we talk about in the CCA, and this shows up in a million different, Dr. Jeff Spencer says action organizes. When somebody says, I don't know what to do, I'm feeling kind of lost, I say, lose yourself in your work. You have work on your desk. Just lose yourself in it. What if that's not my purpose? It doesn't matter because you will not get clarity if you do not take action. You do not get clarity and then take action. You get clarity by taking action. So frequency. Frequency is step one. It doesn't even, you don't have to wait for your purpose to do work. Do work. The trick now that you have a new toolbox. You have a new toolbox. See, it says so right there on the slide. Is now while you are doing work, you are receptive to the things that are happening around you. You are curious about what's going on. You are keeping an eye out, a diagnostic level of discernment for a more efficient path forward. You are staying in a state, again, of receptivity, because the universe, as woo as it sounds, it starts to tell you everything you need to know. You are, or said another way, you already have everything you need. You're just not listening. Right? Anytime I show you, if I show you something and it blows your mind, it was already in you. I don't put anything new in you. I've talked about that before. So anytime you go, wow, Nicsmas really put something in me, that is incorrect. It was already in you. It was just shown to you in a way to reveal what you already know. Okay, so now, maybe you could say, well, I've tried to work really hard in the past, but now you're going to be receptive. Right? Now you are going to stop working, or you're going to stay in the quadrant. You're going to stay in the right quadrant. You're going to stop wasting your time in the wrong quadrant. You have a new toolbox. The same behavior will not yield the same outcome. Right? Because the difference is we are now receptive, we're open, and we're curious. Whereas before, we were just trying to plow through work to feel productive. Very different outcomes. Now, through that frequency, because you are receptive and because you are open and because of all of the new tools, because you used to work, right? And you would follow this narrative and you would fit the technicals and the fundamentals and you'd plow forward. Now your work, again, coming from a place of curiosity, you're working differently. You're starting to work backwards. You're working backwards. You're working from the fundamentals to technicals. You're working from body of evidence to a statement of fact. You bury yourself in this work. New things reveal themselves. You're working the maze backwards instead of forwards. Right? What happens when you do that? What happens is you develop what Randy calls intensity. Intensity is not how hard you do something, the way we use it. Intensity is the stamp that you put on things. I'll give you a few examples. My first business was a gym. Okay? Probably the highest priced gym you've ever heard of. Lines around the block, waiting list. It was just like everything else that we do. You're gonna, if you go through all my businesses, I think they're founded, 7 or 8 of them. You could look at them all, and even if you did not know I was there, you go, this looks like it might be Nick's, if you know who I am. That's the stamp. Okay? So everybody in town used the same language. We had a shared language. They had a shared disposition. They always said stuff like, I'm not worried about the weight on the scale. Today, it's really about where I'm going. It's a relative change that I'm concerned about, and it's super stress-free. And somebody would go, oh, you must work with Nick. Right? I wrote a daily email, at least one email a day, and all of my notes were about 80 pages of Google Docs a month. Okay, that's the frequency. Now, I stopped writing my daily email. If I send an email for somebody else, or if I write an email for somebody else and they send it, people will reach out to me and say, hey, just out of curiosity, did you write this email for this person? That's the intensity. That is the stamp that is mine, that makes it mine. And the only way you can develop intensity is by working backwards. You ever heard the saying, you have to know the rules, you have to master the rules so that you can break the rules? It's a version of that. So you just have to work on whatever it is within your quadrant that you thrive. And you use your new toolbox to work backwards, and what will happen is you develop an intensity. It is a stamp. People can go into a crypto project. They can go into a Telegram group or a Discord group, and if they know me, they could probably say, is this one of Nick's? They just look around. They don't have to see my name. Intensity is the stamp that you put on things because you have reasoned from the ground up, from the fundamentals to the narrative, and developed a style or a stamp that works, but it only works for you. Oftentimes, these are things that only you could pull off. People look at it and they know right away, this is one of yours. From there, if you are receptive to it, purpose reveals itself. Purpose reveals itself, and it may have nothing to do with the task that you're doing, and that's okay. That is okay, but until you have intensity, which is your stamp, that you could see, I've jumped industries multiple times. The purpose may reveal itself as being something that is not what you're doing right here. And then we got to go, why waste all the time doing this? Well, because you could not have possibly been receptive to this purpose had you not done this. So it's not about sitting around thinking about what you want. Sometimes you just have to work, but you have to keep the blinders off. Okay? You have to be focused, but not so focused that you lose your peripheral vision. So that is what I challenge you all to do, or implore you all to do, going into the new year, into the next year, is understand you might be in a clarity phase. You might be in if you're in a clarity phase, you just work. You stay in your quadrant and you just work. If you're in a certainty phase, you already know. Right? So certainty means you've already lined out a path. You just do the work. Lose yourself in the work. Now, frequency, intensity, purpose, this could be writing, it can be exercising, it can be whatever you do. It could be playing an instrument, could be doing client work, writing emails, writing sales pages, whatever it is. Could be playing chess, mastering chess. Could be something you do with your family. Could be mastering communication. We talked a lot about communication. Maybe you really want to master communication with your wife or your kids. And you reason from the ground up. You start doing things backwards. And the way you communicate, this is probably true for me if you've been around, the way you communicate becomes very unique to you. You are the only person that can communicate this way. And from there comes purpose. Okay. Frequency, intensity, purpose. So, if you're sitting around going, I don't know what my purpose is. Nicsmas really opened up, but I realized I knew a lot of things wrong. I'm being an a-hole, but now I don't know what to do. Something. Frankly, I don't care what. You might want to make sure it's not getting you further away from what matters to you, and you might want to make sure that you're in your quadrant, but I shouldn't have to say those things because those are underpinnings of Nicsmas, right? And it doesn't have to feel super aligned. It really doesn't. You will develop your own style. I hate writing. It's so much easier for me to do video. I hated writing, but it was something worth mastering to me. And I have a very unique way of writing, and people can tell when it's mine. People can tell when a sales page is mine. People can tell when an email is mine. People can tell when a Telegram post is mine. And from there has the whole Wolf Den and the CCA and all of that actually spawned out of this frequency. Don't try to decide too far in advance what you think this is going to be. You will not be receptive to all of the options. Okay? That's a combination of Randy Massengale, Jeff Spencer right there. Frequency, intensity, purpose is Randy Massengale, again, senior advisor to Bill Gates and a good friend of ours, and he teaches the CCA with us. And don't decide too far in advance what it needs to look like or what it needs to be. Is Dr. Jeff Spencer. Those are two of the wisest people you could ever encounter, and obviously if you are a CCA member, you have direct access to them. Okay, so Nicsmas Day, tomorrow, AM session is going to start at 8:45 a.m., a little bit early because we have special guests coming. Here's what they're going to do. in the AM session and the PM session. In the AM session, I'm going to have some people come that you otherwise probably would not be in proximity with for many reasons. And they're going to share things they won't share anywhere else. And the primary thing is, this is what I learned in 2021. And this is the toolbox I'm bringing forward. And they're going to share with you, I shared a bunch of tools. They're going to share with you the things that happen. And typically in our world, it's very vulnerable. It's like the stuff they'll never say on stage. It's the stuff they'll never say on a podcast. So this is what fucking happened. This is how I was an a-hole. And this is what I'm going to do in 2022 to move forward. And this is, they might talk about their business plan. They may talk about their plan to fix a relationship. Like, these are very heavy hitting people that you're going to realize, oh shit, all that success, and they still sit around being an a-hole and have to fix things too. So we're going to share some of that in the AM session, and then in the PM session, it'll be private. It'll only be Nicsmas VIPs and CCA enrollees, and we're just going to round table. We're gonna share some other stuff. That will not be public, so it'll probably be a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit deeper, and a little bit more inside baseball. There's some cool reveals, like Steve Sims, for example, the real life Wizard of Oz. Steve Sims is going to come hang out, and he's got like an NFT reveal that I'm helping him with that we're going to give you guys. Nicsmas will be the first to know about the NFT mint that's coming, and his book launch, and his VIP party. And if you don't know, I'll just tell you about the times I hang out with Steve. I went to Elton John's private gala with Steve. Been to prison with Steve. That was weird. We were the first non-Tesla employees to step foot in the Gigafactory, Elon Musk's Gigafactory in Sparks, Nevada. Had Louis Vuitton on Rodeo Avenue. Louis Vuitton shut down so that we could have a private party on the roof with who was there that day? Jay Abraham, Ken Cragen, a bunch of others. So all that to say, Steve is a very good friend to have. You want to think about the impossible, you could go to the Oscars. He's invited me to all kinds of cool stuff. So he's doing a NFT mint, and the highest level NFT gets VIP experience from Steve. And VIP experience from Steve, again, that's like going to the Vatican. You want to propose to your girlfriend at the Vatican. You want to be serenaded by whoever your favorite opera singer is or musician. You want to have somebody play at your wedding that refuses to play anywhere else. You go to Steve. So I can already tell you that the VIP experience with Steve is going to be insane, and Nicsmas members will be the first to know about it. And then again, PM session, not sure what time yet. We're just going to sit down, we're going to chat, we're going to talk about some serious stuff, and we're going to have fun. I'm going to give away a bunch of stuff, because that's what I do on Nicsmas. Typically, I give something away every day, but all those things, right, take time, and they require consumption. I didn't want you to try to consume Nicsmas and also like free courses and stuff like that at the same time. So I'll do all the giveaways tomorrow PM. And of course, it is Nicsmas Eve. I strongly implore you to come join us at the CCA. This is the only time. Last time, I might talk about it tomorrow. I'm going to make the offer to join the Certified Certainty Advisor program. I will tell you a little bit about what the Certainty Certified program is. I didn't make a bunch of fancy slides because I just don't think it's going to be that hard to fill up once I start talking about it publicly. Everything we've talked about in Nicsmas is part of the Certainty operating system. Okay? And what we do at the CCA is we take 8 to 10, up to 15. It depends. It depends on the industries, right? So if we had like 8 accounting firm owners, we wouldn't allow any more accounting firm owners in, because we want to teach them this methodology. Help them master themselves, get everything that they want out of life. How to close the gap, clarity of thought, how to be a more effective human, how to communicate better with everybody that matters to you, right? And then how to turn around and help others. So if you own a business, you're a certified advisor. I will refer everybody that comes to us, everybody that comes through Nicsmas, everybody that comes through Dan's accounting firm that says, I want this methodology. I want clarity, certainty, collapsing time. Can you help me? We refer them out to CCA students. So it pays for itself many times over in that sense. But the real power is in the actual learning the methodology and applying it to yourself. What that means is you get the CCA. A CCA will probably be $55,000 for the 4-month curriculum, and you get certified. And once you're certified, you go in the Certainty app on the marketplace, a certified advisor. You get access to for that. You learn from me, you learn from Dan, you learn from Randy Massigill, you learn from Jeff Spencer. It's probably the best experience I've ever been a part of. It's a no-brainer in my opinion, of course. I spend half of it as a student. The rest I help teach. Okay. For Nicsmas, it is $40,000 plus an extra 8 months of support, which means you get the 4-month certification and then 8 months. So for the rest of the year, we have monthly calls, might be weekly calls even, and 4 events, Certainty Summits, which you can come out to Seattle for and or do remote. And if you have your deposit down by the end of the day today, I said this the other day, but I forgot to check. So if you have your deposit down by the end of the day today, it's a $5,000 deposit. I'll give you an office day, which means you come out to Seattle for a day. If I'm at an event and you want to come to the event, I'll come a day early or a day late and spend it with you. And we'll talk about whatever you want, business, life, crypto. You want to build some crypto shit together, whatever it is as a CCA student. I'll give you an entire day, plus maybe like a follow-up day. CertityU.com/CCA. So it's $40,000. You basically get the full certification. You also get a year-long mastermind, diamond level access. We call it diamond level access, which is access to me and Dan for the year, plus our Certainty Summits and an office day. Certainty Summits are great. Certainty Summits are phenomenal. So hopefully we'll see you there. We do have some spots left. We have 3 spots left right now. And then what we do is we look and we make sure there's not a lot of redundancy. We don't want like 5 or we don't want like 8 physiotherapists, right? Because we don't want to certify 8 physiotherapists and then not have enough referrals to guarantee that they make a shit ton of money from our referrals. But this is my, I'll explain a little bit more tomorrow. It's a little bit of a semi-public retirement. I don't really want clients. I don't want to talk to mass market. We talked about diffusion of innovation. I much rather work very closely with a few people, whether they're business owners or not is irrelevant to me. Rather work much closer with a few people. And then out of those people, a handful of them are going to spread the word to more people. And that's where I belong on diffusion of innovation on that scale. So this is the CCA. This is like if somebody wants to work with me, they watch Nicsmas, they watch all of our stuff, they see an event. Part of the CCA is hoping to get a handful of people that I could say, no, I don't take clients. You're sorry. But here are the certified advisors that I trust. And we have some in fitness, and we have some in finance, and we have some in crypto, and we have some in business, and we have some in accounting, and even we have some that aren't even business owners at all. It's still, even just high net worth individuals or people that are striving to become high net worth individuals. The program pays for itself many times over, and it will be essentially the only direct access to me, to Dan, to Randy, to Dr. Jeff, outside of paying for private, personal, which is much more expensive. So you jump on there if you have any questions. You can let me know, but the link in the YouTube description will link you to a quick breakdown. I'll send more stuff out. Once we hit capacity, we hit capacity. If we don't hit capacity for some reason before we start, you'll see some public stuff. But it'll be far more expensive, and you'll get far less access if you wait till then. All right. I had to pause there because I always cut myself off. I'm going to fire up the Zoom link, and I'm just going to hang out with Nicsmas Decentralized and CCA students for a couple minutes, and then we'll spend we'll have a nice long time to hang out tomorrow for Nicsmas.